Suppose my boss comes down the hall and says, "I need you to get some numbers together for me. I know it's short notice, but do what you can." The first thing I'm going to do is pull up the last report that I created for them. The problem is, however, that this report is no longer up to date. Fortunately, because I built it with BizInsight, all I need to do to remedy that problem is update it. When I select the current month and year from the drop-down menu, the report automatically refreshes. Notice that the title now reads 1-month income statement for the month ended December 2016. I have my December 2016 numbers in front of me. The report is ready to go. I ship it off. The boss is going to get this report, and the first thing that they are most likely going to say is, "Wow, this was fast. Are these numbers correct?" And I'm going to respond, "Absolutely. These numbers are coming directly from our database, so these are our most current numbers." They might then say, "I didn't realize that you could get these out so quickly. Could I get a 3-month statement?" And my answer is going to be, "Yes." Then I'm going to go back to my desk and bring this report up again, and this time I'm going to change the month to October. And then highlight that column and drag it across to make 3 columns. My report title now reads, 3-month trending income statement for the quarter ended December 2016. I have 3 months of data in front of me. This report is ready to go. I ship it off. If they had asked for 12 months, still not a problem. All I would do is change the month to January and highlight that column, and instead of dragging it 3 months, I would drag it across to include 12 columns. Notice now that my title has been updated to read 12-month trending income statement for the year ended 2016. I have 12 months of data in front of me. This report is ready to go. I ship it off. I just went from an old 1-month report to a current month-ended report to a current quarter-ended report to a current year-ended report, all in a matter of seconds with just a few mouse clicks. Now that they have the report, the next thing they might say is something like, "This looks really good. It'd be great if we had last year's numbers for comparison as well. Is that possible?" And my answer is going to be, once again, absolutely. All you have to do is go to the year parameter and select the value that you want from the drop-down list. In this case, 2015. Once they do that, notice that the report updates, and now they have a historical version of this report. I can give them access to as many years as are available in my ERP system. They may also say something like, "Our fiscal year goes from September to August. Would it be possible to get a copy of this report that matches our fiscal year?" With other reporting applications, crossing over years would be difficult because of the way that they access the data on the back end. But with BizInsight and Excel, it's seamless. Notice that when I change the first month to September, the report immediately updates and now goes from September of 2015 to August of 2016. I can change the month and year to whatever values I need to, and the report will update automatically. Now that the report is set up the way that the user wants it, the next thing that they will do is look over the values and may ask something like, "Can you get me the detail for my revenue hardware account for February of 2016? And my answer is going to be, "You already have it. All you have to do is right-click on the value that you want the detail for and go down to BizInsight Drill Down and select Table from the pop-up menu. When they do that, they're going to get the line item detail from the database for that value. Some people like pivot tables. BizInsight accommodates that as well. Simply open the drill down menu as before, but instead of selecting Table, select Pivot Table, and the detail will come up in the pivot table format. Notice that when I click on the pivot table, my field editor comes up, and now I can do all the things that users like to do with pivot tables. For instance, I can clear out these fields, and then select GL account number as my row header, and then segment 2 as my column header. Notice that when I do that, I can set up the pivot table to look exactly the way that I want it to, while still having the ability to double-click any of these values and get the line item detail from the database. So I can go from my report to a list, or from my report to a pivot table to a list, but either way, I can give my user the ability to move around very quickly in that report. Suppose I get a request for a report and the user specifies that they only want to see the data for their own division and not the rest of the company. Notice that I can change the year and the report will update for me. But I've also added an additional parameter for division. When I select a specific value in the division parameter, the report updates to show only the numbers for that division. And when I drill down, notice that the drill down detail is filtered to match. So I've just customized this report from top to bottom for that user. Additionally, I can see any year for each division. And likewise, I can see any division for each year. If I have 3 years worth of data and 5 different values for division, that's 15 different combinations that I can create for this report. In the past, what I would have to do is create a separate report for each combination. Then I would have to manage each version of that report, and when I wanted to send them out, I would have to update each one before I could do that. With BizInsight, all I have to do is create the report once and add the filters that I want to apply to it. And whenever I want a specific version of this report, I simply select the combination of filters and the report will automatically refresh with matching data. With BizBroadcast, I can automate that process so that those versions are automatically created on the fly without me having to do anything. I just tell BizBroadcast which report I want to send and what filters to use, and it will do the rest. The last thing that I want to make note of is that while I have values for each of my individual divisions, I also have a value that says all. I can do individualized versions of this report, or I can do a consolidated version of the report. And I can do that for any entities that I have in my database, whether it's multi-company, multi-department, division, cost centers, whatever. I'm able to create an individual version of the report or a consolidated version. Besides allowing users to create dynamic versions of basic reports, BizInsight allows the creation of complex reports as well. Using BizInsight functions in conjunction with Excel logic and formulas allows the report builder to create some really robust reports. Here we have a sample of a 12-month rolling report. This type of report is very difficult for most reporting applications, but with BizInsight, it's seamless. Notice that when I select a different month and year, not only does my current period update to reflect my selection, but the previous 11 months update as well, indicating that we have a true rolling 12-month report. Also, you'll notice that this is a high-level view of this income statement. So for each of my revenue, cost of sales, and expenses section, I'm only showing the totals. But suppose that there is a user that wants to see the underlying account balances that make up these values. I've used Excel grouping to create a roll-up that allows the user to expand each of these sections and see the underlying account balances. They can even drill down on those values as well. This allows the user to go from a very high-level view of this report to a transaction-level view, all in a matter of seconds with just a few mouse clicks. Additionally, notice that at the bottom of the report, there is a chart that updates whenever I change one of the parameters. The reason for this is the integration that BizInsight has with Excel. These are not simply viewed as foreign data objects, but as native functions. What that means is that I can attach any Excel element to my BizInsight functions, in this case a chart, and when I change the parameters that update that table, the chart that is attached to it is going to update as well. This comes in very handy if I have a user that doesn't want to have to delve into the numbers, but only wants to see a graphical representation of a key performance indicator. Rather than providing an additional version of this report to accommodate them, I simply add a chart to my existing report, and now I've opened it up to be used by a whole new realm of users. This budget versus actual report is a great example of the kinds of reports that can be built in Excel when data access is no longer a barrier. I needed a report that would allow me to see my budget numbers for the year, but then as the year progresses, replace those budget numbers with actuals. Notice that I have total columns for my actuals as well as my budget numbers and a final column for percentage of goal. As I change the month, the actuals total is cumulative so that I can see just exactly where we are with respect to our goal anytime during the year. Using the previous year's numbers allows me to easily make year-over-year comparisons as well. This income statement is an example of a basic financial report that is usually created on a monthly and annual basis. Customers have told us that currently they must recreate this report every time from scratch. With BizInsight, reports are created once and then updated by simply selecting the appropriate filtering values. And with BizBroadcast, this can be automated so that the report doesn't have to be accessed at all. It will be opened, updated, and distributed automatically. By eliminating the time that it takes to create basic financial reports, attention can now be given to other parts of the business, such as an aged receivables report to see who owes us money. This aged receivables report gives me a list of my customers and shows the amount of their past due invoices, as well as any invoices that will be due within the next 90 days. Notice that when I change the aging date, the entire report updates and tells me not only how much they owe, but it breaks it out by 30, 60, 90, and 90 plus days. Notice too that an Excel element called a Spark chart has been added to each table to show what the trend for each customer's past due invoices looks like over the last 90 days. This allows me to use this report not only as a way to convey data, but as a live document that gives me the information that I need to make business decisions. For instance, suppose the warehouse comes to me and says, "We just received orders from Computer Repair and Sales and Blackwell Emulsion. Both customers have ordered the same product, but we don't have enough to fill both orders." In the past, I may tell them to fill the Computer Repair and Sales order first because I know that they do a lot of business with me. Now, however, I can bring up this report and update my aging date and look at my Spark chart column. I can quickly see that Computer Repair's past due invoice amounts have trended up over the last 90 days, whereas Blackwell's have trended down, indicating to me that they are making payments. I can then tell the warehouse to go ahead and fill the Blackwell order, and I will call Computer Repair and apprise them of the back order and take the opportunity to discuss their past due invoices as well. I've just used this report to quickly make a business decision that prevents me from committing more capital to a customer that isn't paying me, which has a direct effect on my cash flow and bottom line. This customer analysis report shows how BizInsight functions can be used in conjunction with Excel elements such as line charts and conditional formatting to create a report that directs me and my users to the exact information that I want conveyed. Notice how when the data is changed, the table changes and the conditional formatting updates with it. I can now highlight who my top customers are for each month in terms of amount invoiced, quantity shipped, and gross margin. I've also added a line chart. Notice how quickly I'm able to determine who is my top customer for the month. Excel elements combined with BizInsight functions allow me to create reports that are easy to read and provide immediate prompts for the exact information I'm looking for. I have added additional filtering parameters as well. By adding a territory filter, I'm now able to create over 180 different versions of this report. With BizBroadcast, I can create these versions automatically. With BizInsight, reports can be created as a way to provide a great deal of information in a very concise and easy-to-use format. Take this sales report, for instance. Look at the amount of information that I'm able to obtain in just a few seconds of looking at this report. Who are my top 3 salespeople for a given month? How much did we sell during that month? What does our trend look like over the last 12 months? What was our highest month? What was our lowest month? I can see that on average, our top 3 salespeople account for nearly 70% of our sales. BizInsight allows me to create reports that not only convey data, but information that can be used to make informed business decisions. Once you see the kind of reports that can be created in Excel with BizInsight, your first thought is going to be, those reports are amazing, but what kind of effort is going to be involved in building them myself? How difficult is it to learn how to use BizInsight to build my own reports? Well, let me show you. Here's a report that I have to reproduce every month. I want to keep all of the formatting, but I want to be able to update it automatically. BizInsight allows me to do just that by retrofitting my existing static reports with BizInsight functions. This can be accomplished by simply opening my navigation pane, finding the function I want and dragging it to the cell where I want my value. This way, I can quickly convert all of my existing reports without having to start from scratch. Notice that when I drop the function onto the worksheet, the BizInsight query editor pops up. The minimum required filters are already set up, and I can easily add any additional ones needed for my report. I then point each filter to the cell that contains its parameter, anchoring it when necessary to a specific row or column, and then I click OK when I'm ready for BizInsight to retrieve my value. When I click OK, BizInsight ensures that it's placing the value in the correct cell, and then it goes out to my database and returns the correct value. As you can see, when I change one of the parameters, the value updates. I have just added a dynamic cell to an otherwise static report. Drill down is a snap as well. There is no additional configuring required for this functionality. Drill down capability is a built-in feature of all BizInsight functions. You may be asking yourself, do I have to do this to every cell? And the answer is yes. However, by using anchoring, I'm able to use the copy and paste functionality of Excel to add this function to the rest of my report. Notice how quickly I've made this entire column dynamic. Now, I will highlight this column and drag it across the table to make the entire report dynamic. It's really that simple. In a matter of minutes, I've converted an existing static report to a dynamic BizInsight report. Now that the data is automatically refreshable, I can add other elements to my report. By selecting a range of data and then choosing recommended charts from the Insert toolbar, I'm able to add a graphic element to my report. While this report now looks complex, you saw how quickly and easily it was created. I can even expand the chart and hide the underlying data. When I change the values, the chart updates. I have now created a basic dashboard. There are several very expensive dashboarding applications on the market that contain more than 200 charts and graphs, but what most users don't know is that Excel has over 230. What that means is that I can create reports with a variety of Excel elements that will allow my reports to appeal to a wide audience of users. Creating dashboards from the very simple, as we see here, to very complex can now be done with ease. Here's an example of a dashboard that was created using nothing but BizInsight functions and Excel charts and graphs. Having an executive dashboard allows my reports to have a much broader appeal throughout my organization. And because they're dynamic, they can be used at any time to get the most up-to-date view of key performance indicators. Once my reports are created and ready to go, the next thing that I will need to consider is how I'm going to distribute them. BizBroadcast is another BizNet software product that allows me to automate the refreshing and distribution of my reports. To do this, I open my BizBroadcast toolbar and select Load Broadcast. I would then select New Distribution Template to add a broadcast list tab to my report. Incidentally, I'm able to add a broadcast list to any Excel workbook, not just BizInsight reports. I would then create a distribution definition on each row by providing the information required by each column. First, I select my rendering format. I have 11 different formats to choose from PDF to Excel, regular or values only, and I can even select HTML and publish my reports to a web source. I can then choose to have it sent to any local or shared path to which I have access, including an FTP site if I'm publishing to the web. I can also distribute via email by typing an email address or selecting one from my local email address book. BizBroadcast integrates with my local mail application. I can use the selection column to designate which tabs I want to include in my distribution. I can choose one or all or any combination in between. Once I've designated a file name, I can specify additional parameters that I want to use to customize the report to my user's needs. Here, I have included a tab in my workbook that contains my customer analysis report, which I'm able to filter by year, month, and territory. By designating specific values for each, I can ensure that I send each user a report that contains only the data that is pertinent to them. BizBroadcast will automatically create a separate tab for each combination of parameters that I have designated. I don't have to create and maintain these myself. I can simply have BizBroadcast do it for me on the fly whenever they are required. Here is my finished report in PDF format. Notice that each bookmark contains a separate version of the customer analysis report for each combination of parameters designated in my distribution list. I did not have to individually create or update these manually and combine them into a single PDF document. All I had to do was set up my list and click Run Now. I can even automate this process by selecting Set Schedule. I simply determine how frequently I want the report to run, from hourly to monthly, and then designate the start date and select OK. On the specified date, BizBroadcast will automatically open the report, refresh it, and then distribute it however I have designated in my distribution